Reddit, when did you realize she was not the one? Everything I thought I knew about him was a lie. For example, he was fired from McDonald's for peeing in the parking lot in front of customers. He told me he quit. I usually don't mind age gaps like 5 to 10 years. We had been dating for about 2 months, and I all of a sudden just realized how different we were. We did enjoy our company together, but every time we were out with her friends I felt like I was back in my early 20s, and every time we went out with my friends she found it dull and boring. It just didn't work out, and we both kind of agreed that this wouldn't work in the long run, so we left as friends. I think that was more of a personality thing, not the age difference. I'm 14 years younger than my husband. He is 41. I am 27. We got married when we were 36 and 22. We both have similar personalities and don't care for the going out scene. His mother is in her early 60s and she does like it. When she tried to shoot me with a crossbow. I'm Cupid. Stupid. When he didn't want to come and see me, and I had to spend 5 hours in a train every weekend to see him. He had the economic possibility to do it, but couldn't be bothered. When he spent 3 hours screaming at me for overdrafting our joint checking account. I'd written and recorded 2 checks to pay bills. He'd spent over $100 that week at bars, and was mad that there wasn't enough money to order himself a pizza. After he called me a stupid bee in front of our daughter, I threw him out. Good riddance. When we went on a trip that was supposed to be our best trip ever, as it's been 14 months that we were apart, and I didn't feel like I loved him that much anymore, and all the jokes he said seemed so old and we just didn't click. He was once the love of my life, but time passes and I met more people and got older and realized that he wasn't the one that I wanted. It sucks, but I can't help it. When I realized that when something fun happened, when I went somewhere and or witnessed something cool, had new experiences, learned something and was enjoying life, he was never there. We had totally different interests. He was a nice guy and we had a peaceful life together, but the things I wanted to do weren't things he wanted to do. Now I have someone who loves the same kind of life I do. Still good friends with the ex though. When she was making dinner, she asked me to do the dishes from last night. We had plenty of plates and stuff left, so I said I'd do it after dinner, so I wouldn't have to do it twice. She ordered me to do it now. I said no. She told me that either I'd do it now or get the heck out of her face, or she'd throw the boiling water with beans over my face. That's when stuff kind of clicked and I realized I'd been living for a crazy lady for a while. We broke up a few months after. I had not finished letting her blackmail and intimidate me into giving up all my money and dignity yet. Context behind this question. I'm in that part of life where, even after breaking my heart, I have difficulty getting over her and I still think we're meant for each other, despite my trying my hardest to be rational about the situation. When she sat there telling me she couldn't put 100% into the relationship and that her feelings have changed, once you hit that point you realize the relationship will never be what it once was. I think it's better to be honest about those things. It sucks and all, but in the long run it's really for the best, even if it hurts on the moment. I had been miserable for over 2 years, but I guess I was complacent. Anyway, I think the final straw was we went to Disney World during spring break week, and it was ridiculously crowded. She wanted to catch the train to the other side of the park, but the line was very long and I had to use the restroom. So I said, why don't you get online, and I'll run to the restroom really quick and meet you here. Fine, no problem. I get to the restroom, and there is a line. So I waited, about 10 minutes, did my business and then headed back to the train line. She proceeded to make a huge scene, cursing and yelling because I left her in the line alone. And what if the train had freaking come, and blah blah blah. It clicked right then and there that we were constantly fighting over ridiculous stuff, and that I had become so used to it that I just continually let it happen. I finished out the rest of that trip, fairly numb, but avoided doing anything about it for another 2 weeks or so. We had another fight over what to eat that night, and I just snapped and ended it then and there. I'm not a very emotional person, but that relationship fricked me up pretty good. It's been almost 2 years now, and I haven't even attempted to go on a date since then. Only recently am I starting to warm up to that idea. My ex just smoked dope all day, did all sorts of drugs, I'm not against it, as long as it's in moderation. She had goals for the future and that put me off. After 12 years of marriage and having 2 kids, he started smoking spice and crack without telling me. He choked me to the point where I started blacking out and I took out my pocket knife and stabbed him in the back to let me go. My survival instincts kicked in. When he got out of jail, he came by against the restraining order, and I swore to him I'd kill him if he touched me again. Then our 10-year-old approached me and told me I needed to divorce dad because if I'm dead on the floor, who is going to protect him and his 2-year-old brother? It broke my heart, but I knew it was time. He's getting served with divorce papers today. Having your son say that must have been the most heartbreaking wake-up call. I hope all goes well. When she cheated on me with a 45-year-old fat balding co-worker with an ex-wife, a 14-year-old son, and a 6-year relationship with another woman because he's so present when we talk. It's just easy good luck with that crap. I was a few weeks away from proposing too. People lose their minds when they have midlife crises. Interestingly, several of her other co-workers reached out to me to say he's known to constantly hit on women at work inappropriately and he's done this crap before. Part of me almost worries for her. When she said the following, "I can't wait till I'm old enough to have kids. I've always wanted kids." Which rings true for me too. But I don't want you to be the father of my children. I still wanna be with you, but I don't think you are father material. We had been together for over a year. Dang. Please tell me the breakup happened right then and there. If you're not father material according to her, then please tell me you ended it right there. We went through the drive-thru at Crystal and she got mad because I asked for my burgers with no onions or pickles. She said I was inconveniencing her. I told her I didn't love her anymore and broke up with her that day. He was a super nice guy. Probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met and ever will meet. I had a really hard time coming to terms with the fact that this perfectly nice, loving, caring man was not going to be the one for me. There wasn't anything wrong, but nothing was really right either. We had a ton in common. I guess we were just missing the chemistry that you need to make it lasting. The relationship lasted almost a year. It took me a few months to really determine it wasn't right. I suppose the moment I really realized it was when I thought he deserves to be loved the way he loves me, but by someone else, and it didn't bother me to think that. It's been about 2 years since we broke up. He is in a very loving relationship now and I couldn't be happier for him. We had been living together for around 6-7 months, and I had been letting her stay rent-free after she graduated. I would come home and she would be stressed out from not having a job, getting rejected, not getting interviews, and I would try to comfort her despite at that time working the most stressful job I'd ever had to date, to the point I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, anxiety and sleeping disorders. I was able to deal with her ignoring me and being unhappy all the time because I always told myself once she got a job it would be better get back to normal. Then one day I came home and she complained that I had left my underwear out on the floor when I left for work that morning, and something just snapped. I had always known her mother was a perma-grump who could never be happy no matter what, and I couldn't stand being around her for much more than a day or two. But suddenly I looked at my girlfriend and I clearly saw her gradually becoming her mother, and me being powerless to stop it. I saw that no matter what happened, no matter what I did, she was always going to find a way to be unhappy, and I just couldn't bear the idea of spending the rest of my life with someone like that. I also resented the fact she was simultaneously dead set against becoming a traditional homemaker or mother, but at the same time doing a career that paid less than minimum wage. In essence, she just could not have been more useless to me if she tried. I wish we had had more time to talk about these things. I wish I could have articulated all of this when we were still together instead of years later after a great deal of soul searching. But alas, I needed hindsight before I realized a lot of what I was feeling thinking. Thanks for letting me get this out. This feels so good to talk about. Was talking to my recently broken up with friend about this. I realized early on his girlfriend wasn't as smart as he was, and that's mean, and I do respect her, but the divide was significant, and mostly it wasn't that she was unintelligent, it was that she constantly limited her own ability and relied instead on prejudices and assumptions that were comfortable. Meanwhile, He is the type of person who hears about something and runs to learn more, can have a thoughtful discussion and admit when he is wrong or when he didn't understand something at one point but does now. She's a great person, but because of the intellectual divide, the power balance in the relationship was horribly skewed. They went for 5 years, but I think it shouldn't have lasted this long, and to be frank, I think they're both better off outside the relationship. Oh, I feel like this also applies to my relationship. Me, being the learner, and her the limiter. I'm a little spooked. When I went to her house one morning and she had a black eye, she said she tried to break up a fight that a friend of mine was involved in at a club. But later, a person I knew who worked at the club told me how she walked into the girls' bathroom at the club that night, shortly after the fight, and saw this girl punching herself in the eye. She wanted the attention, I think. My good angel said don't stick with Maze. Tyler Durden. No matter how sweet that butt may be. When she told me her list of ridiculous fears, started wearing children's clothing, said she started seeing crap, and began to suck on pacifiers, and showered less. I was 16 at the time, but still, that's not normal at that age. That's not really normal for any age. When she moved out of the house while I was at work, but still wanted to stay together, because there was too much me in our house and not enough her. When I had to ask for compliments because the never-ending slew of funny insults about my looks and intelligence were beginning to really get me down, his only nice thing to say about me was "you have nice tea." When I heard the saying "only marry a man if you would be proud to have a son just like him," and I realized I didn't really like who my son was. We just got busy with stuff and didn't feel like putting in the effort anymore. It was long distance too. It's a real shame because she was a wonderful person. We still talk though from time to time, which is nice. When I realized he talked to me the way he talked to his mother, he didn't like his mother and thought she was totally incompetent. Oh, ouch, bullet dodged. He chose the worst times to tell me heartbreaking things. Telling me he'd decided, after telling me otherwise for 2 years, that he never wanted kids, on my birthday on our way home from my parents. Calling me names, ignoring me, refusing to tell me why he was upset with me, and making me cry on the way to my parents for a party. Making me lie about why my eyes were all puffy and red. In the end he cheated on me and I tried to get over it, but after a few months I realized it wasn't worth it and that he wasn't right for me. We stayed friends until something big happened last year and I just don't want that kind of drama in my life. I dated lots of the wrong guys after that, but came to realize exactly what I wanted in a partner, and so I didn't settle for anything that didn't feel right. Very happy now that I've found the right person for me. We're planning on getting married and looking for a house this summer. It had been coming for a long time. Little things here and there. By this point in our relationship I felt like I was her servant. I was working 2 jobs to support us. I regularly dropped her off and picked her up from school. We had 2 vehicles, but she didn't like that parking was limited, so she'd have to leave really early to get a spot. It didn't matter if I only had 2 hours of sleep and had to be to work in 4 hours. She got a ride. I doubt she ever fixed her own dinner or got her own beverages if I was home. Didn't matter what I was doing, or if what she was doing was unimportant. I regularly helped her with her homework. Not just a little either. I would basically do the research, write the paper, and then spell grammar check it after she edited it into her own words. I did all these things for her, but if I ever tried to say no she would make me feel like I was lazy, like I never lifted a finger. She was the hard worker and I didn't love her enough to do such simple things. Eventually I wised up and realized that we were not good for each other. I broke up with her, except I chickened out the next morning and apologized. We stayed together for another year or so until she cheated on me. Sounds like you were a doormat for going along with all that. I hope you know better now and are in a healthier place. We had been dating for 1/2 years. We were best friends and it was working great, and he was planning the proposal. We thought we had everything figured out. My mom took me on a 1/2 week vacation to another country to visit relatives. I got back to the apartment that I shared with him before he was due home from classes and felt panic when I heard his keys at the door. I wasn't excited to see him. It was weird. It's not like we hadn't kept in touch the entire time I was gone, and it's not like anything had changed. but for some reason, it was weird. Some part of me just knew. I grew distant and didn't talk to him as much. He brought up my strange behavior about a week later, and another week after that, we broke up. He moved out. We don't talk anymore because he loves me and it would hurt him. But sometimes I miss having him as my best friend. When she told me how proud she was of me and I realized a truth I had long avoided, I had no respect for her or her opinions. She was a nice person and hot, and I wanted to be in love with her, but I was lying to her and to myself to help get over a bad breakup. I ended it and it was terrible. It was the right thing to do, but it was terrible. Man, that's got to hurt. As someone with a highly intelligent and successful partner, this is one of my greatest fears. When we were riding together in his truck and there was a snake in the road, and he swerved out of his way to hit it so it would die. Yep, that was definitely the moment when I realized we had nothing real in common. When I asked, in all seriousness, if I had the money and I had a custom house built to look like a spaceship, would you want to live in it? Can I have his number because that sounds freaking amazing. How do you know when it's over? When you feel more in love with your memories than with the person standing in front of you. The second I read this quote, I knew he wasn't the one. Perhaps he was at one time, but he simply wasn't that person anymore. You just know, man. Like, you instinctively know. It started by me feeling healthier and increasingly stronger over the course of a few weeks. When a dimensional rift between alternate dimensions opened at work one day and my exact doppelganger came through, murder in his eyes, I knew it had been his doing. He had been killing all the us and the other universes, redistributing our power between the ones left, and now he was here for me, and I realized why he was here. He was here because it wasn't enough yet for him. He was not the one just yet. Take your upvote, you son of a b. When she thought she was attracted to some other girl at her school. I'm a guy. I cannot so proudly say I make people gay. When she told me that I was the center of her universe. Do not, I repeat, do not, spend your time with someone who is extremely dependent off of you for their happiness. I was having a lot of difficulty breathing. Had taken some asthma medication and it wasn't working. Asked so to take me to the hospital. I don't feel like going out right now. I don't like hospitals anyway. Ended up driving myself. Spending about 6 hours in the ER for fear of a collapsed lung. Turned out several alveoli had ruptured, but the lung was otherwise intact. No phone calls, no text messages. Didn't even ask me how I was when I got home. I kinda realized at that point that we weren't meant for each other. When I realized that, for all that she talked about how depressed she was, for all that she complained about how unhappy she was, for all that she wept and wrung her hands, it had been a year and she hadn't made any inroads whatsoever into changing her life for the better. She had gone out of her way to derail efforts that would have made her life easier, had actively avoided doing things that would have started her on the road to getting her life under control. I knew she wasn't for me when I realized that she was happy to continue being a depressed victim and that she actually wasn't ever going to change. Not really. I would like to add, I suffer from depression also, and I was going through some other really serious life crap while she and I lived together. But I wanted to feel better. I wanted to be happy and was working hard to get closer to that, and for all that she said she felt the same. I never saw it. We were in our early 30s. I wasn't willing to lose any more time supporting someone who wasn't ever going to be there for me. Wondering about this question makes me paranoid all the time. I know people would typically say that means she's not the one, but I think everyone's perception of what defines the one is different. When I'm with my so I feel in love with her, but most often when I'm not with her I feel paranoid or unsure. I usually tell myself that I'm thinking about it too much and should just go with it, but that often doesn't help. I'm not sure if what I'm feeling with her is genuine love towards her or that I just love the feeling of having a partner who is very similar to me and loves me. I've only been seeing her for about half a year, but that doesn't stop me from thinking about it. Life advice Reddit PLS. When she refused to talk to me because I told her you can't hold a cloud like they do in Aladdin. While we were waiting for a tow truck because my car died. While she was dating another man and we had to be out and separate, even though I was dating her first and she begged me to take her back. There was no singular moment needed for all previous girlfriends. Over time in these relationships, I found myself wanting more and more to be hanging out with friends rather than hanging out with the girlfriends. Fast forward to today, I'm about to propose to my girlfriend. When I'm with her, I'm fully present and can't think of anyone else I'd rather be with. When he was lying to me about stupid things. When someone can lie to you as easy as breathing, they don't care about you and they will do it again and about bigger things. When I realized there was no partnership, there were his dreams, his goals and his social life and mine didn't exist. I had absolutely no support in anything. I was trapped looking at the same four walls of an apartment every day, eating dinner alone, taking care of the dog alone and trying to maintain the motivation to go to school which he deemed pointless. I deserve better. With my ex I realized after 2 years that everything he said was just another empty promise, and I grew tired of being hopeful and waiting for him to get his act together. I wasted 2 years. I wasn't gonna waste any more time. It was a shock at first because I thought we were gonna get married, but now I'm with somebody who is everything I could ever hope for and we're getting married this summer. When I got more excited about him going to bed than I was about him waking up. When my sister called me at 2 AM drunkenly to tell me that he was controlling my life. When I realized that he had forced me to isolate myself from all of my friends and family and I had no one left but him, which was exactly how he wanted it. Even after all that, I think the final moment that really flipped a switch for me was during the breakup itself. I was still a bit unsure of my decision, but everyone around me was very encouraging. When I told him we shouldn't be together any longer and apologized, he calmly said, "If I kill myself, it will be your fault." Something in me just kind of snapped when he said that and I started laughing in surprise. I said, "I'm sorry I hurt you, but if you physically harm yourself or kill yourself, that is absolutely not my fault." He kept insisting that it was, and that I was driving him to it. What started as the hardest breakup of my life turned into the easiest after that. Unfortunately, after I married her, don't get me wrong, I love her very much and she's good for me. The problem is I always have this thought in the back of my head that I could have done better. We're completely different people than when we met. On top of that, I feel like she just holds me back from the things I want to do as far as my career. Sorry for venting on here, it's not the right place or time. This the first time I've expressed these feelings anywhere. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.